I came to my daughter's for dinner, but she said, "Who invited you, old woman? Dinner is only for family and my husband's parents. Leave." I silently turned around. But the next morning, I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. For 63 years, I had considered myself a good mother. I raised my daughter Jennifer alone after her father passed away when she was only 7. I worked 2 jobs to put her through college, celebrated every achievement, supported every dream. When she married David 3 years ago, I welcomed him into our small family with open arms. I thought we were close. I thought I mattered. The first warning sign came 6 months before that terrible evening. Jennifer stopped calling as often. Our weekly dinners became monthly, then stopped altogether. When I asked if something was wrong, she'd smile that tight smile I didn't recognize and say, "Mom, I'm just busy with work." I convinced myself it was normal. Young couples need space, don't they? Then I met David's parents at Jennifer's birthday party. Margaret and Robert Harrison, old money, country club members, the kind of people who measured worth in stock portfolios and social connections. Margaret looked at my department store dress with barely concealed disdain. "Oh, how practical," she'd said, her voice dripping with something that made my stomach turn. I watched Jennifer laugh at Margaret's jokes, saw her touch Robert's arm with an affection she no longer showed me, but I pushed the unease aside. She was my daughter, my only child. Blood runs thicker than water, doesn't it? The evening of November 14th started innocently enough. Jennifer had actually called, and mentioned they were having a dinner party. "Just something small, Mom," she'd said. She didn't explicitly invite me, but she didn't tell me not to come either. In our family, that had always meant the door was open. So I bought a nice bottle of wine, put on my best dress, and drove the 40 minutes to their house in the suburbs. I rang the doorbell at 7 o'clock sharp, holding the wine and a homemade apple pie, Jennifer's childhood favorite. When she opened the door, I immediately knew something was wrong. Her face went pale, then red. Behind her, I could see Margaret and Robert at the dining table, along with several other well-dressed people I didn't recognize. "Who invited you?" Jennifer's voice was cold, unfamiliar. You mentioned dinner, sweetheart. You thought wrong." She stepped onto the porch, pulling the door nearly closed behind her. "This dinner is for family and David's parents only. You need to leave." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Jennifer, I am family. I'm your mother. The Harrisons are David's family. You're just embarrassing me, Mom. Look at you." Her eyes swept over me with disgust I'd never seen before. "You don't belong here. Go home." I stood there, frozen, the wine bottle suddenly heavy in my hands. Through the window I could see Margaret watching us, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I simply turned around, walked to my car, and drove away. But that silent drive home? That's when everything changed. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Jennifer had done her homework, where we'd shared countless meals, where I had held her hand through her first heartbreak, and I finally allowed myself to see the truth. This wasn't sudden. This had been building for months, maybe years. Every canceled lunch, every unreturned call, every time she'd flinched when I mentioned something about my work at the hospital cafeteria in front of her new friends. Margaret Harrison hadn't created this problem. She'd simply given Jennifer permission to act on feelings she'd been harboring all along. My daughter was ashamed of me. The realization was devastating. I'd sacrificed everything for her, my youth, my dreams, my chance at remarriage. I'd worked myself to exhaustion to give her opportunities I never had. And now? Now I was an embarrassment. Too poor, too ordinary, too working class for her new life. I looked around my small apartment. Worn furniture, but clean. No designer brands, but I'd never been in debt. I'd lived modestly so Jennifer could have better. And this was my reward? To be dismissed like hired help at her door? The anger came slowly at first, then built into something cold and focused. I wasn't just angry at Jennifer. I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, for making excuses, for accepting breadcrumbs of affection when I deserved so much more. But what could I do? Confronting her would only drive her further away. Crying to relatives would make me look pathetic. And besides, I had no other family. Jennifer was all I had, or so I'd thought. That's when I remembered something. 3 years ago, when Jennifer and David bought their house, I'd given them the down payment. $50,000. My entire retirement fund. They'd promised to pay me back once David's business took off. I'd never asked for the money, never even brought it up. It was a gift from a mother to her child. Except now, legally speaking, it was a loan. I had the bank records, the transfer documents, even an email where David had written, "We'll pay you back within 5 years, I promise." Did I want to sue my own daughter? The thought made me sick. But sitting at that table at 3 in the morning, something became clear. Respect isn't given, it's demanded. If Jennifer could treat me like a stranger, then perhaps it was time I started acting like one. I opened my laptop and searched for lawyers specializing in family financial disputes. Not because I wanted the money, though God knows I needed it for retirement, but because I needed Jennifer to understand that actions have consequences, that you can't erase the woman who raised you just because she doesn't fit your new aesthetic. By sunrise, I had a list of 3 attorneys and a plan forming in my mind. I'd give Jennifer one chance to make this right, just one. And if she refused, then I'd show her exactly who she was dealing with. The woman who'd survived widowhood, poverty, and decades of struggle wasn't going to roll over and disappear just because her daughter found her inconvenient. The law office of Patricia Chen was nothing fancy, just a small suite above a pharmacy, but Patricia herself was sharp as a knife. She listened to my story without interruption, her expression neutral, but her eyes calculating. "Do you have documentation?" she asked when I finished. I slid the folder across her desk. Bank transfers, emails, text messages. 3 years of evidence that my gift had always been understood as a loan. Patricia spent 10 minutes reviewing everything. Finally, she looked up. "This is solid. We can send a formal demand letter. If they refuse, we file a civil suit. But Mrs. Morrison..." She paused. "Are you sure? This will destroy your relationship with your daughter. She destroyed it first," I said quietly. "I'm just making it official." The letter went out on a Monday. By Wednesday afternoon, my phone exploded. Jennifer called 16 times in 1 hour. I let every call go to voicemail. On the 17th try, I finally answered. "Have you lost your mind?" she screamed. No hello, no mom. "A lawyer? You sent us a letter from a lawyer?" "I sent a request for repayment of a loan," I said calmly. $50,000. You have 30 days. "This is extortion. This is David, tell her." I heard muffled voices. Then David came on the line. "Helen, this is extremely inappropriate." His voice had that condescending tone I'd always disliked. "That money was a gift. You can't just..." "I have emails where you promised repayment. I have text messages discussing terms. Patricia seems to think I have an excellent case." Silence. Then, "You're really doing this? To your own daughter?" "My daughter told me I was an embarrassment and ordered me off her porch. So, yes, David, I'm really doing this." I hung up. That evening, I received a voicemail from Margaret Harrison. "Helen, dear." Her voice was syrupy, sweet, completely fake. "I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Why don't we all sit down and discuss this like adults? Jennifer is just so stressed with work, she didn't mean what she said. And this money business, surely we can work something out without involving lawyers. I saved the message but didn't respond. The next day, Patricia called. They want to meet. Jennifer, David, and his parents. They're proposing mediation. No, I said immediately. Helen, I have to advise you, mediation might be… No. They had 3 years to treat me with respect. They had 30 days to respond appropriately to a simple request for repayment. They chose to insult me, threaten me, and now they want to negotiate? Tell them I'll see them in court. That's when Patricia told me something that changed everything. I did some digging. David's business isn't doing well. They're leveraged to the hilt. Your $50,000 might be the difference between them keeping that house or losing it. I felt a cold satisfaction spread through my chest. So that's why they were panicking. It wasn't about repairing our relationship. It was about money. It had always been about money. File the suit, I told Patricia. I want every dollar plus interest. Helen, file it. She did. And just like that, there was no going back. The lawsuit was filed on a Friday. By Sunday evening, they showed up at my apartment. I heard the pounding on my door around 8 o'clock. When I looked through the peephole, I saw all 4 of them: Jennifer, David, Margaret, and Robert. Their faces were twisted with anger. I opened the door but left the chain on. You're not welcome here. You vindictive bitch! Jennifer's voice was raw with rage. Do you know what you're doing to us? We could lose everything. Then you should have paid your debts, I said calmly. David stepped forward, his face red. That money was a gift. We have witnesses who'll testify. Witnesses to a private transaction you documented in writing as a loan? I raised an eyebrow. Good luck with that. Margaret pushed her way to the front. Her usual composure was cracking. Helen, let's be reasonable. You're doing this out of spite because your feelings were hurt. But you're destroying your daughter's future, her marriage, her life. No, I interrupted. Jennifer destroyed our relationship. I'm simply collecting a debt. We don't have $50,000. Jennifer was crying now, but her tears felt manipulative rather than genuine. If you do this, we lose the house. Is that what you want? To see your own daughter homeless? I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who I'd carried, raised, loved unconditionally, who now stood before me like a stranger, willing to play victim after treating me like garbage. You should have thought about that before you told me I didn't belong in your family. Robert Harrison, who'd been silent until now, finally spoke. His voice was low and threatening. We have lawyers too, Helen. Very expensive lawyers. We'll bury you in motions and countersuits. We'll drag this out for years. You can't afford that. Actually, I said, Patricia works on contingency. Can your very expensive lawyers say the same? His jaw clenched. You'll regret this. Is that a threat, Robert? It's a fact. You're making enemies of powerful people. We have connections in this town. Stop! My voice cut through his bluster. All 4 of you, listen carefully. You are going to leave my property right now. If you ever show up here again uninvited, I will call the police. If you threaten me again, I will file a restraining order. Am I clear? Jennifer let out a sound somewhere between a sob and a scream. I hate you. I wish you'd never been my mother. The words should have hurt. Maybe they did. But underneath the pain was something harder, colder. The feeling is mutual. Now get out. They left, still hurling insults and threats. I closed the door, locked it, and slid down to sit on the floor. I was shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline, from anger, from the emotional toll of facing down your own child. But I'd done it. I'd stood firm. I took the next 3 days off work. I told my supervisor I had a family emergency. which was true in its way. I spent those days in my apartment, phone off, just breathing, processing, grieving maybe for the daughter I'd thought I had. By Wednesday, I felt stronger, clearer, ready for whatever came next. On Thursday, the texts started. Not angry ones this time. These were worse. They were designed to break me. Mom, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please, can we talk? I miss you. Jennifer. Helen, let's put this behind us. Family is forever. David. We'd like to invite you to dinner. A real one this time. No conditions, just family. Margaret. I read each message with detachment. They thought I was weak. They thought guilt and sentimentality would make me fold. They didn't understand that the woman who'd buried her husband at 32 and worked double shifts to keep food on the table was no longer vulnerable to emotional manipulation. I responded to none of them. Friday brought flowers. Saturday, a gift basket. Sunday, a card signed by Jennifer. I love you, Mom. Please forgive me. I threw it all away. The temptation was there, I won't lie. Part of me, the part that still remembered Jennifer as a little girl, the part that ached with loneliness, wanted to believe this was real, that she'd genuinely realized her mistake. But I'd seen her face at that door. I'd heard the disgust in her voice. People don't change that fast. This was strategy, not sincerity. Patricia called on Monday. They've made an offer. $30,000, paid over 2 years if you drop the suit. $30,000 of the $50 I'm owed, paid slowly so they can drag their feet? No. Helen, they're trying to negotiate. I'm not interested in negotiation. I want what I'm owed, all of it, with interest, as per the loan terms we can establish from the documentation. Full amount or we go to trial. She was quiet for a moment. You're burning every bridge. They burned them first. I'm just refusing to rebuild. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my old friend Caroline, a nurse I'd worked with for 2 decades before she retired. We'd lost touch after Jennifer's wedding, mostly because I'd been so focused on being available for my daughter. Helen, God, it's been too long. Her voice was warm, genuine. We talked for 2 hours. I told her everything, the rejection, the lawsuit, the harassment. I expected judgment. Instead, she said something that made me cry for the first time since this began. Good for you. Seriously, Helen, I've watched you bend over backwards for that girl your whole life. It's about time she learned her mother isn't a doormat. You don't think I'm being cruel? Cruel? Caroline laughed. Honey, you gave her everything and she threw you away like trash. What you're doing isn't cruel. It's self-respect. And frankly, it's overdue. We met for lunch the next day. She brought 2 other retired nurses from our old hospital crew, Susan and Diane. Women I'd once been close to before Jennifer became my entire world. They surrounded me with support, shared their own stories of ungrateful children and family betrayals. For the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. You have a family, Susan said firmly. It's us. It's the people who actually value you. That night, I slept soundly for the first time since this nightmare began. The Harrisons and Jennifer could plot all they wanted. I wasn't alone anymore. And I wasn't backing down. 2 weeks before the court date, they came again. But this time, they didn't pound on the door. They rang the bell politely. When I looked through the peephole, only Jennifer and Margaret stood there. Both wore subdued clothing and carefully neutral expressions. I considered not opening it, but curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see what game they were playing now. Helen. Margaret's voice was soft, almost kind. Please, just 5 minutes. That's all we ask. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. I didn't invite them in. Jennifer looked thin, exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes. For a moment, just a moment, my maternal instinct flickered. Then I remembered her face when she told me I didn't belong. Mom, her voice cracked, I've been seeing a therapist. She helped me understand. I was wrong, so wrong. The way I treated you was unforgivable. Yes, it was, I agreed flatly. Margaret stepped forward, her expression earnest. Helen, we all make mistakes. Jennifer is genuinely sorry. And David and I, we realize we may have influenced her behavior. We were protective of our son, and we didn't consider how that made you feel. It was a good performance. I had to give them credit. We want to make this right, Jennifer continued. Not because of the lawsuit. Forget the money for a minute. I miss my mother. I miss us. Can we please just start over? I looked between them. Two women who'd come here with a script, playing their parts beautifully. And maybe part of it was even true. Maybe Jennifer did miss having a mother. But she missed having a mother who knew her place. One who didn't embarrass her in front of the right kind of people. Start over, I repeated slowly. Meaning what exactly? Meaning family dinners again, Jennifer said eagerly. Meaning you're part of our lives. Meaning I dropped the lawsuit, I finished. They exchanged a glance. Margaret's mask slipped, just for a second. Well, yes, the lawsuit does make things difficult. There it is. I almost laughed. You had me going for a moment, the therapy, the apologies, but this is still about the money. It's not, Jennifer's voice rose. Mom, please, You're trying to manipulate me. Again. I felt ice in my veins now. Here's what would happen if I dropped the suit. We'd have dinner, maybe two. You'd be relieved. But nothing would fundamentally change. The next time I inconvenience you, the next time Margaret makes a comment about my clothes or my job, you'd pull away again because you haven't actually changed. You've just gotten scared. Margaret's face hardened. You know, Helen, you're not exactly blameless here. You've always been clingy, demanding. Jennifer needs space to build her own life. There it is, I said again. The truth. Thank you, Margaret. Jennifer's tears were turning to anger now. Fine. You want the truth? You are embarrassing, Mom. You show up in your cheap clothes with your cheap wine, and yes, it's humiliating. The Harrisons have been so generous to us, and you're just a cafeteria worker who thinks she deserves a seat at their table. The words hung in the air between us. Get out, I said quietly. Mom, get out. They left. Jennifer was sobbing. Margaret was cursing me under her breath. I closed the door and locked it with shaking hands. Fear rushed through me. Real fear. What if Jennifer was right? What if I was just a bitter old woman making her daughter's life hell out of spite? What if I was throwing away my only child over pride? But then I thought about Caroline's words, Susan's support, Diane's fierce loyalty. I thought about years of sacrifice, of love given freely and returned with contempt. The fear didn't disappear, but it transformed into something harder, determination. I picked up my phone and texted Patricia. No settlements. We go to trial. Her response came immediately. Are you sure? Completely. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Rebecca Wu presided, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. Their lawyer painted me as a bitter mother, weaponizing a gift. But Patricia was surgical. She presented emails where David explicitly promised repayment. Text messages discussing paying Mom back. A voicemail where Jennifer said, "We'll start making payments next year, I promise." These aren't the communications of someone receiving a gift, Patricia told the judge. Judge Wu looked at David. You sent an email stating, "We'll pay you back within 5 years." That seems quite clear. David shifted uncomfortably. I was being polite. You didn't mean what you wrote in writing? The judge's tone was dry. I testified calmly about my sacrifice, the loan, the understanding we had. Their lawyer tried to rattle me, suggesting this was revenge. I didn't break. Then Jennifer took the stand, and everything fell apart for them. Patricia played the voicemail. Jennifer's voice, cold and clear. "The Harrisons are David's family. You're just embarrassing me, Mom." Jennifer tried to backtrack. That was taken out of context. What context makes telling your mother she's not family acceptable? Jennifer exploded. She doesn't understand. The Harrisons have standards. She shows up in her Walmart clothes with her Costco wine like she belongs with them. She doesn't. She's embarrassing, and I'm tired of apologizing for her. The courtroom went silent. Judge Wu's expression said everything. "I've heard enough." Judge Wu removed her glasses and looked directly at Jennifer. "I've been on this bench for 15 years, she said coldly. "I've rarely seen such a clear-cut case of ingratitude and attempted exploitation. The evidence is overwhelming. Written communications explicitly promising repayment. But more than that, your testimony just now removed any doubt about your character." She put her glasses back on. "I find in favor of the plaintiff. The defendants will pay Helen Morrison $50,000 plus 3 years of interest at 5%, plus court costs and attorney fees." Margaret gasped. David's face went gray. "That's nearly $70,000, their lawyer stammered. "Your Honor, they don't have—" "Then they should have honored their debt. Payment in full within 90 days, or I'll authorize liens against their property." The gavel came down. As we left, Jennifer grabbed my arm. "Mom, please, we'll lose the house. We'll lose everything." I looked at her tear-streaked face. "My daughter. My only child. You already lost everything that mattered," I said quietly. "You just didn't realize it until now." I walked out with my head high. That evening, Patricia, Caroline, Susan, and Diane joined me for dinner. We raised our glasses. "To Helen," Caroline said, "the strongest woman I know." "To new beginnings," Susan added. I looked around at these women, my real family, and smiled. To knowing your worth, not because I'd won money, not because I'd gotten revenge, but because I'd stood up for myself. Because I'd proven I had value, that I deserved respect, that I wasn't disposable. The 90 days came and went. Jennifer and David couldn't pay. The house went into foreclosure. They moved into a small rental apartment. David's business folded. The Harrisons, stretched thin from legal fees, had to sell their country club membership. Margaret was reportedly working part-time at a boutique. Jennifer called once, 6 months later. "Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I understand now. I understand what I lost." I deleted the message. My life had transformed. The settlement went into retirement. I took classes at community college, creative writing, art history, things that fed my soul. Caroline, Susan, Diane, and I formed a weekly dinner club. We traveled, tried new restaurants, discovered life beyond obligations. I even started dating. Robert, a kind widower from the library, thought my cafeteria job was respectable. He brought Costco wine to dinner, and we laughed about it. A year after the trial, Susan asked, "Do you ever regret it?" I thought about it. "No, I regret it was necessary. But she needed to learn people aren't disposable. What if she reaches out again? Then she knows where to find me, but she'll need to prove it with actions, not words." The truth was, I didn't need Jennifer anymore. I'd built a good life, a life where I was valued and respected, where I wasn't an embarrassment but a friend, a woman with worth. Jennifer had taught me she didn't need me, so I learned I didn't need her either, and I'd never been happier. Meanwhile, Jennifer and David's marriage was crumbling. The Harrisons had stopped speaking to them. The perfect family image had shattered. They'd made their choices. Now they lived with the consequences, just like I was living with mine, which were pretty damn good. So what did I learn? That blood doesn't make you family. Respect does. That sacrificing yourself for someone who doesn't value you isn't love, it's self-destruction. I'm 65 now, retired, living comfortably. I have friends who value me. I have peace. Here's my advice. Know your worth. Don't let anyone treat you as less than you are. Set boundaries. Enforce consequences. So here's my question. What would you have done? Would you have forgiven Jennifer or done exactly what I did? Leave a comment below. Subscribe if this resonated with you. Thank you for listening. Remember, you matter. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise.